You're very welcome along to Peil and Back, our weekly Irish women's football show from Post Post Sport. It's at Post Post Sport on Twitter and Instagram, and you can subscribe to all our podcasts. They're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Castbox, and YouTube. So you can subscribe to your preferred platform. And postpost.sport.blog, done a bit of renovation on our website, so you can get everything there as well. Jessica Farry joining us again. Jessica, nice to talk to you again. Probably not in the best mood after the Euro qualifiers draw this morning.
No, I wish it was in different circumstances. That draw was a bit of a shocker, wasn't it? Like you're always excited looking at the draw, and you always know you're going to get. The teams are all obviously good, but you know you're going to get maybe one big team or whatever. But I mean, that's just horrific, isn't it? What, third, fourth, and fifth best teams in the world or something we have? Crazy. I don't know. I can't believe it.
I was looking at the seeding just before, thinking like if pot one was hard anyway, anyone in pot one would have been hard. Spain and France in particular were probably the ones to avoid. And thinking pot two, if we avoid England, then those other pot two teams we have a chance against. And pot three, you're probably thinking anyone but Sweden. And we pretty much got everyone we didn't want to get. At the same time, the game against England would be a great occasion, probably in the Aviva. Probably like you could be looking at a huge record-breaking crowd there. At the same time, not ideal for a competitive game. Would have been nice maybe for a friendly, but it'll be very difficult. France, we played them before the World Cup, well beaten by them. Didn't perform entirely badly in the first half, but well beaten in the end. Sweden, in fairness, we did well against them in the World Cup playoffs. Narrowly lost out to them by an unfortunate own goal, and nearly beat them away from home. So I mean, yeah, look, it's as hard as it can be. At the same time, we were saying last week, this is kind of a free hit because we have a playoff. I mean, obviously the bottom team will get relegated to League B, but then if you win League B, you can kind of cheat the Nations League a little bit because you get relegated to League B, then you have an easier group to win and get promoted to League A for the qualifiers again. So
yeah,
in a way, it's kind of just free hit. Let's go at the games. Let's not play with any fear, and then it's probably going to be a playoff. But we have nothing to fear here. But there is on the other hand, we don't want to get hammered by anyone.
Yeah, and like I suppose they always say these competitions, if you want to go far or if you want to win them or get to a final or whatever it may be, you're going to have to come up against the best at some point anyway. So even if you didn't get those three teams and you went on far in competitions and everything, you would have to play the best anyway. As you said, it is a free hit. There's a playoff. It just, I suppose, as you said, you don't want to get hammered. I don't think they will, to be honest. But as always, playing England, you ugh, like you want to enjoy that match. I think it will be an amazing occasion. I really do think it will be, and hopefully it is in the Aviva because I think it's probably one that might actually capture the imagination of people who maybe follow the men's but don't follow the women's football. And the prospect of seeing England and Ireland playing in the Aviva would probably actually be a big deal for the sport. Because we're kind of still at that stage. That's what we have to remember, is that we're still looking at trying to grow the game here. Just don't want to get hammered. They're glamorized, actually. It's funny enough. I think all three of those teams we've been drawn against are glamorized, really. Free hit, yes, absolutely. A chance to improve, a chance to learn from the best as well for players. Some of them play against them every single week anyway, but yeah, it's just a nightmare scenario because we were talking about it the last time I was on with you, and I was saying about like qualifying anyway, and you're expecting them to be so much better this time with the progress that's happened in the last few years. But yeah, it's a bit of a shocker seeing the draw, but I'm not losing hope. Why would we lose any hope? As you said, there's a playoff there for us. So yeah.
It's nearly, we have that safety net, we know. And look, in all likelihood, if things go if things go by rankings and you could say go according to plan for everyone above us, then we're going to be in a playoff. At the same time, playoff is definitely will be less difficult anyway. We'll be playing one of the top teams in League C. That's a very winnable game. It's over two legs as well, so you'd think that even if, say, we were drawn against the League C team away from home and maybe it was a long trip somewhere far away, it might be a banana skin. But at the same time, we'll have them back in Tala, possibly the Aviva. We'll over two legs, we should be able to beat them, and then we're playing the winner of a playoff between a League B team and the winners of a League B team, a League B tie. So at the end of the day, like we're still probably one of the favourites to qualify. Just to add, Switzerland have automatically qualified. They are in League B, but they will qualify as
Mm.
hosts. Bit of controversy about their not the government not allowing them to spend all the money that they were planning to on the tournament. But yeah, I mean, look, it might almost be work out well for us in the end because we saw ahead of the World Cup qualifiers, we had some very difficult friendlies. We had Australia, we had Iceland, teams ranked above us, teams more difficult than us. I remember there was a time in the men's game where Ireland seemed to play Oman in every international break, and the never-ending friendlies against Oman, and they don't really benefit anyone, like in the long term. But like playing these difficult sides, you have to learn. It's more unforgiving. So in the end, it might work out well for us because we'll be very well suited. We'll have six difficult games, so we'll be in a good position for the playoff, which I think if a year ago you had said Ireland will have a chance for a playoff for the Euros, you would have absolutely accepted that.
Yeah, 100%. And like I think like there's so much growth as the year goes on and every year goes on. And I think actually to see how we would fare against those three teams um over two games would actually be hugely beneficial. And like you'd like to see where you are against England, like France, Sweden, like how we compare with them. I know we've played them, but like now you want to see at this stage, like, and I think the one thing I suppose that I was thinking about when I was watching the friendlies, was it's funny seeing players. We were nearly talking about a B team for the friendlies for the Wales game, for example. We were talking about the best players weren't there, and Eileen Gleeson was looking at players and having a look at players, and there was a lot of players in that team there who would have been automatics a few years ago. And now you're kind of like, are they even in with the shout of being in the squad anymore? So that in itself just shows you how much change there has been. So I think playing against those teams will actually be beneficial for everybody. As I said, a lot of players play at the top level, and particularly the players who play in England, they would know a lot of the English players anyway. But it's not going to do any harm playing against them. And the experience, as you said, there's no point playing in Oman or Saudi Arabia, or actually that's not fair because Saudi Arabia are actually getting much better in football. But you're not learning anything from it. It's just a kickabout, really. So at least when they're playing against these teams, it's big experience for them. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, there's I suppose. Look, when you see the draw initially, you're kind of thinking, "Oh God," but like all hope is not lost. And you just have to make of it what you can. There's nothing you can do now about the draw. It is what it is. It would be nice to surprise people and to win a couple of games, but we'll see.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like yeah, when I didn't actually get to see the draw live, I just checked the email and saw drawn into A3, and I was thinking League A kind of stands for feck's sake because it was a bit grim seeing those three crests jumping out at you: France, England, Sweden. I mean, but at the same time, like you know, safety nets there in the playoff. We've said it. It's not like we need to finish in the top two of this group to have a chance. If this was a traditional qualifying campaign in the sense that it's a 5 or 6 team group and you need to finish in the top to get automatic qualification or second, then we'd be saying this is a nightmare. But at the end of the day, it might almost work out better for us. And as you say, like it's nice to play the weaker teams sometimes, score 5 or 6 goals, everyone goes home happy, but it doesn't really teach anything in the long run. And a lot of these players are playing at a high level. We were saying a couple of weeks ago when we had John last time, you know, we have recognizable players in this team. It's not a case of like Kaden McCabe, Denise O'Sullivan, and who else is there. We actually have recognizable, talented players in this team. We have a bit of squad depth, so it's time to put that to the test. So yeah, look, it's not going to be easy, but it might ultimately be kind of learning the hard way, but picking up a few good lessons. In terms of the other groups, I didn't take a proper look at the other groups, but anything else catch your eye when you were looking around, or were you just traumatized?
Yeah, I think I was just looking at how on earth did we get those those three teams in the one group. No, I didn't. I didn't pay that much attention, I'll be honest, to the rest of the groups because I was just looking at ours, wondering how the hell it panned out the way it did. But there you go. We'll learn more about them in due course, I'm sure.
Yeah. It'll be well, it would be nice if it would be nice if we were maybe we'll already be automatically qualified with 2 games to go and we can look at the other groups
Maybe.
maybe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna later on we're gonna obviously the League of Ireland Women's Premier Division starts this weekend. President's Cup was last weekend, so we're gonna chat about that in a bit. But first, we're gonna turn our attention to Treaty United. You are listening to Peil and Back, available on Spotify, YouTube, Castbox, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode of any of our podcasts. Now, Treaty United are idle in this first week of the season, but there's plenty going on. It won't be a quiet weekend. We have the CEO, Ciara McCormack, on. Ciara, you've been quite busy off season.
Yeah, definitely has been one of the more busier periods of time in my life for sure.
It's what's good about it, I suppose, the new ownership is it's very much. You were telling me there before we started talking men's team, women's team. It's pretty much very close budgets, both teams being run very highly efficiently. There's not that big of a gap between the men and the women's as we often see when a men's team has a women's side as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just being very prudent with the investment in the sense that, I mean, I think, well, first and foremost, we're focused on sort of building a long-term sustainable entity in Limerick from a soccer perspective. And I think the first mistake that a lot of people make getting involved in football is just the fact that they're throwing loads of money at the men's team. And it just, again, it doesn't, I think it's happened in past iterations of Limerick football. And, obviously there's no, if you do it that way, there's no facilities or anything like that, like to show for it really at the end of it. So that's the decision that we've chosen to take in terms of focusing on facilities and just being prudent with the men's team and obviously putting a bit of investment into the women's, just because obviously you can get a pretty high return for investment on the women's side without really putting that much in, relatively speaking. So yeah, I'd say that's sort of the strategy I guess we've taken financially.
And Treaty United, still one of the newer teams in the league, I suppose, just only coming in 2020. A rare occasion of a team having a women's side and then having a men's side. But there was a time, maybe 2 seasons ago, I think Treaty didn't win a game. It was a bit grim. It was probably a team that most teams would think, look, we're going to take 6 points there. Last season was a drastic improvement, and I'm sure you're looking to push on again, not just off the pitch, but on the pitch as well in terms of results and final position in the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, Mary and I are leading the club, and we're two extremely competitive people, and I think for us, yeah, I mean, I know that I like to win, and I like to win a lot, and so I mean, I think yeah, we've been very strategic in terms of the players we've targeted to sign. Obviously, we did go after, double digits worth of top Irish talent first and kind of got shot down by everybody. So it's not such a bad situation to be in then when your plan B is basically assemble a all-star team from Canada. But that was, sort of, again, with the decisions from the Irish players, that was sort of the path that led us on. And yeah, we're very happy with the team we've assembled, and we've got a lot of really exciting young Irish talent in the squad as well. So yeah, we're really looking forward to just a great season. And honestly, like all the teams, there's, so many great teams in the league and lots of great players. So we're just looking forward to being competitive and a great season ahead.
You mentioned Canadian All Stars. We had one of your Canadian All Stars on a few of our podcasts last year, and Anne Marie Uliak. She did a few of our World Cup pods. Would despite maybe not keeping as many clean sheets, she was one of the top performing goalkeepers in the league, and you've added a bit of quality around that. So like this is a fairly strong enough team relative to what Treaty have had the last couple of years. Still a few young players, but as you said, bringing in a few Canadian All Stars. Do you think it's easy for those players to adapt to the League of Ireland?
I mean, I think for any player moving across the world, it's an adjustment for sure. But these are great girls. They've, done well in university, in North America. I think, yeah, I mean, I think there's an adjustment period for sure. I think the League of Ireland is quite physical, and not again that Canadian soccer isn't also physical, but yeah, I mean, I think there's just an adjustment period when you're moving across the world. But I think at the same time this year, we've been lucky enough to have the group of players together for a good solid few weeks of preseason. And I think last year we were I played like last year, obviously, and we were still introducing ourselves, getting on the field against Shamrock Rovers for the second game, kind of thing. So, yeah, so that was something we were quite conscious coming into this year, of not having that type of a situation. So, yeah, I think it's the girls are adjusting nicely, and there's lots of great gel between the Irish girls on our team and the Canadians, and we have an American and a Japanese and an Australian, and we've got quite a mix of players from all over. So yeah, it's going well, and everyone's, again, just lots of just great attitudes, and just a team really excited for the season.
How has preseason gone this year? Looks like a few good results, and in terms of training and all, how has everything gone?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, you kind of, again, the girls we brought in are good players. We didn't really know what to expect in terms of, yeah, I mean, you never know how a group of players are going to gel, but I mean, I think we were quite, happy with the results, in the sense that, this group of girls only got together, I don't know, 5-6 weeks ago, and, we're playing the likes of teams like Athlone and Galway that, a good chunk of their rosters have been together for a long time. So I think, yeah, like I said, I think that the league's going to be super competitive this year. And I think for us, yeah, I think we had 2 wins, a tie and a loss against some really quality League of Ireland side. So I think that bodes well, hopefully, for, yeah, just being a competitive group in the league this season.
You mentioned competitiveness. This is a very competitive league. I think traditionally it was kind of a case of 3 top teams in Shelburne, Peamount, and Wexford, and then kind of just everyone else was well behind. Now it's very much you still have your kind of top 3 in Peamount, Shelburne, and Shamrock Rovers, who many would expect to finish in the top 3, but then everyone else is kind of looking at many teams could finish kind of between third or fourth and right at the bottom. So it is going to be a very competitive league. What are Treaty's aims for this season? Is there an aim in terms of position, or is it more in terms of overall performances on the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, personally, just from watching games in preseason, like I do think it's going to be a league that, anybody could take points off of anybody else. And I think, again, for us coming into it, and kind of the beauty when you have, 10, 11, 12 fresh faces to the league, like they don't know who anybody is. They don't know what the history of the league is. They don't have that fear or respect, or, like they're just coming in and they're competitors and they want to play. So I think for us, yeah, like I said, I think like we're just looking forward to just being a team, like you said previously, Treaty was a walkover that I think everyone could count on their 6 points for the season and didn't have to worry. So I think we're looking forward to just having, yeah, teams come in and know they're going to have a competitive game. And like I said, we're competitive and we want to win. And we think we have a team that is going to, challenge every team. And we're really looking forward to getting going for sure.
How did you end up in Limerick in the first place last season? You came in as a player, obviously. Now you're the CEO. That's a bit of a promotion, I'd say. But how did you end up to Treaty United?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's been a pretty unexpected couple of years. I mean, I definitely, if you told me that I'd be, yeah, the CEO of Treaty in Limerick right now, I definitely wasn't on my, life path that I thought I would be on. But no, I mean, it's obviously like a really incredible opportunity. And to be honest, it's been something in the back of my head. I always did want to get involved in Irish soccer after I, was lucky enough to play for the national team, and wanted to kind of give back, yeah, within Ireland. And obviously super passionate about Canadian players as well, and just the lack of opportunities that girls over there have. And so, yeah, basically I had, my mom's from West Cork. I was thinking that it, maybe trying to get a women's team going in West Cork a couple of years ago, talked to the League of Ireland. They sort of said that they were looking for more, yeah, just not standalone. Like they wanted men's teams, women's teams, academy. And they pointed me towards Treaty as a club that needed help on the women's side. And yeah, Mary Curtin was one of my best friends playing for Ireland. And so it was an easy conversation to kind of get in the door at Treaty. And then, yeah, just coming in last year, as a player, I brought over a bunch of Canadians, and again, it wasn't my intention to jump in and play, but just again, the roster was pretty thin, and I'd played professionally for a really long time. So I jumped in and played, and I just kind of saw that there was, it was just a club that was kind of, as the league's pushing on and the demands are getting higher, that it just did need, sort of, it just needed resources really. And I approached the board about if they'd be open to a takeover. They said they would. And then that just kind of led to just a couple of months of trying to find an investor, found an investor, and then, yeah, here we are.
All that time later. Looking at we've seen the men's season has already started. Treaty doing fairly well. I saw a combined League of Ireland table for the Premier Division and First Division, and Treaty were top. So for whatever that's worth, but it seems like there's a real effort in terms of getting support from the community as well. I mean, we see sometimes takeovers happen for clubs, not just in Ireland, anywhere in the world, and fans can feel a bit alienated. Fans can feel like they're out of the loop. Fans can be a bit skeptical. I think that happens in the League of Ireland because there's been so many cases of people coming in, taking over teams, and then a year or two later they're gone and someone else takes over. It seems like there's a real effort though from Treaty United to engage with the community, engage with the fans, and really build a good culture around both the men and the women's team.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think the best thing we have at Treaty, and obviously I can only speak from the club I've been at, but just the people in general, like the people within the club are incredible. I really love all the people that I've met in Limerick. Like it really is. It's been an easy adjustment in the sense that, again, our men's team are doing incredible. I wish I could take credit and say that I pulled all the strings to, get us off to such a flying start, but really, like, Tommy and his staff are incredible. I think they've done a great job of bringing in good people as well as players and building a good, positive culture. And I think for me, as someone that played at a high level, how important it is, just when people are feeling good in the environment. And and so I think that's kind of just been for us. Like, I think there's a good balance of, obviously, like, even with me, like, I'm from the outside per se, but you have Mary Curtin, who is probably like Limerick's most capped international for men or women, or one of the most anyways. And so she's obviously like heart and soul, live and die for Limerick soccer and stuff. So I think in that sense, I do think we have a nice blend of sort of, also for me, like, I'm not from Limerick, so I don't really know or, pay attention much to like the history or whatever's gone on in the past, like, is not really in my, I only see tons of opportunity and potential. And I'm, I love living in Limerick and I love the city. So I think what's happening is just a very genuine, like, passion. I think all sides from everyone involved in the club. And I do think that results on the field come when there's like a good vibe around everything. And I definitely think we have that right now in Treaty for sure.
In terms of this season, is it maybe a plus to have an idle week the first week with so many changes coming in, or would you have rather just get going straight from the off this season?
Yeah, I mean, we're still missing a couple of players coming in late from university. So I think for us, I don't think, of course, now that the season's here, I'd love for us to be on the field this weekend and just kind of see, how things go. But I also think it's it's a kind of a positive just to sort of sit back and watch and just see how all the other teams come out of the gate and what they look like and whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I think either way we would have been happy to play this weekend, but we're also, I think it's just as good for us to sort of have a week to kind of see how the first week of the season plays out. And I think we'll be excited and ready to go for next weekend for sure.
And you're looking at setting a new record for the League of Ireland in the first game of the season against at home to Deal Our Ways in Markets Field.
Yeah, I mean, I think again we broke the record on the men's side for the opening game. We had over 2,000 people there. So again, for us, like Mary last year, when the last game of the season, the women's team played Shamrock Rovers on TG4, and Mary got on the phone and took our average attendance on the women's side, I think was like 100 before that game, and we had 900 people or something at that game. So yeah, I mean, I think we, like I said, Mary and I are competitive. We shoot high. We're super excited with how our men's team has started off. We're also gunning to, break records and set standards on the women's side as well. So that's our goal. We want to break the league record the first game of the season. So yeah, if anyone in Limerick's listening, we'd love to have you. And if anyone from outside of Limerick's listening, we'd love for you to come and just sort of see what we're trying to build. So
I think you're the first person we've had on the podcast who's called TG Caher TG4. I'm not sure how I feel about that
sorry.
one.
I knew it didn't sound right coming out of
So
my mouth, but
that's the Canadian slipping
yeah,
through.
I gotta stay authentic,
You do have the Irish connection, and you played for Ireland. How did you? Obviously, from your accent, we can say you probably grew up on the other side of the Atlantic. So, how did you end up playing for Ireland?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you heard my mom speak, I don't know if anyone had seen that was a terrible documentary, but the murder in West Cork and how they subtitled the West Cork accent in that documentary. But my mom is basically still walking around with a accent in Canada that needs subtitles for it. So yeah, my mom's from West Cork, my dad's from Athlone. They emigrated to Canada in their 20s. I was born shortly after. And yeah, I still have a ton of family in Ireland. I came back and forth all the time growing up. And then I played professionally in Europe in my 20s and just kind of, yeah, was in touch with Noel King from the Ireland setup and ended up coming into a camp and really had a good experience. And yeah, played for the team for the good part of 2008 to 2011. And yeah, so that was sort of, I guess, the background of me landing in Ireland as a player.
Sounds like a very eclectic family with a West Cork accent, an Athlone accent, and your accent. Might have been hard for some people to know you were all related. But what are some of your highlights? Looking, obviously the Ireland team have come on leaps and bounds. Started with that kind of revolution in 2017, where the team had to really lay down, where the team had to really put their necks out and say, look, we're not happy with the conditions. Now, all these years later, we've just played at a World Cup. What are some of your highlights from your time playing in Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, I have really fond memories. I mean, again, like obviously now when you see women's football and what it looks like at the international level, and I don't know, when people always have adults talk about the good old days or whatever, like, or even talking even to players now in their 20s and it's funny, like you really do feel like an old school pioneer of like, just how things used to be. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, I loved my time playing for Ireland. I think, yeah, all the girls that I played with were just really fun. It was always great going to camp and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, my first three caps for Ireland were playing the US, who just won the gold medal at the 2008 Olympics. Katie Taylor was on that trip, and obviously she's gone on to become quite an iconic figure. But yeah, playing that game against the US, being in a US stadium with 20, there was back in those days too, there was 15-20,000 people I think at one of our games, or the first cap I had I think was in Philadelphia. So yeah, I mean, it was great, obviously, like culturally, even the different countries we got to play in, and yeah, I really don't have a bad thing to say about the whole experience. But obviously myself and Mary have a photo of us changing in a bathroom in the airport in Dublin. Like it just was how it was. But obviously, again, things don't change unless people are brave. And I think it's, the way that the women stood up in 2017 and, again, how the team's doing now, it's all connected. And yeah, it's really, really amazing to see how much Ireland has grown with women's football at the international level. And I was actually lucky enough to be in Australia for the first game against Australia with, and so just watching girls that I played with on the field, we played in front of like 300 people at Tallaght Stadium, and here they were playing against, Australia in front of 75,000 people. Like it's been surreal watching just the trajectory of women's soccer. And I just think it's really, really exciting. Yeah. Just what young girls now have to look forward to. So
Sure, that World Cup, it was. I think it really captured the imagination of the country. We had Emma Duffy of the 42 on, getting very emotional about her trip to Australia for the World Cup. I'm sure it was kind of it was nearly a moment in time for you, just watching. This is Ireland playing at a Women's World Cup. This is the senior Irish women's team playing at a major tournament, and doing reasonably well. I mean, I think we were all a little bit disappointed we weren't in the mix to qualify out of the group on the last game, but that kind of shows how far we've come. That we were nearly disappointed we didn't win a game against three very good teams at the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal, and yeah, like you said, like even a little bit emotional watching it. Like it was surreal is the best way that I can describe it, in terms of just just not being able to believe that what I was amongst or whatever. And I actually I had two Aussie friends with me in the Ireland section, so I was like trying to like keep them sort of under control, and anyway, so but yeah, no, it was a great experience, and yeah, I mean, again, like you said, it was disappointing that they didn't get out of the group, but like what an accomplishment to be at a World Cup and disappointed that the Ireland women didn't get out of the group. So I think, yeah, like the country's moving ahead leaps and bounds on the women's side, and I think it's so exciting to see what's to come for sure.
Just to finish up, going back to Treaty United, you do have a new fronted jersey sponsor that you want to mention.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough to have Dawn Foods from Waterford be our front of jersey sponsor for this year. So yeah, I mean, again, we think we've got something really good going on with the whole club. And obviously, like I said, like a big thing for us is, equality in terms of, again, how we're promoting the teams and the effort we're putting into them and the value we're putting on them. So yeah, I think from that perspective, it's great to have sponsors jumping on board with us. And I think in that way, for sure, we're looking to just do something at Treaty that hopefully other, clubs take a look at, and that clubs continue to choose to pour resources into the women's side of the clubs, because, again, there's just so many talented players, and as the international games have shown, like there's so much potential on the women's side and so much potential for return if you put the investment in. So I think that's something personally for me, I'm looking forward to this year. In what we're doing with sponsors and with the players and the team and everything around the women's program.
Switch to the blue jersey as well. No longer Atletico Madrid, Treaty Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, it just was kind of it just seemed like that's what the fans wanted. And just kind of, again, in the midst of the takeover and all the craziness, was just sort of almost a borderline impulse decision that now people seem to be really happy with. So we're actually welcoming Jada Merritt, who's a friend of mine from Vancouver, and he played in the Premiership for Watford and for the US at the World Cup. And he's a great guy and a designer on the side. So he helped design the jerseys, and he's coming over this weekend. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Well, all the best for the new season. We hope to see a very competitive Treaty United. Looks like the league is going to be competitive in general. So I'm sure you're looking forward to getting to sit back and watch a few of the games this weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait. And I was almost considering driving and watching a couple in person, but I think, it'll be great to see. And like I said, like I just really hope that again, Irish fans in general start, getting behind the women's teams and the clubs. And I just think, like we're excited to just be a part of a lot of really exciting things and great work being done by clubs all around the country. So yeah, we can't wait to get started.
Thanks very much, Ciara, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And postbus.sport.blog is where you can find all our stuff, and Postbus Sport on Spotify, YouTube, Castbox, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode of any of our shows, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter/X at Postbus Sport. Farry back with us now to talk about the League of Ireland Women's Premier Division kicking off. We only have you for a short time here. Sorry, that sounded a bit dramatic. I didn't mean that. You're not dying. It's okay. Hopefully we'll have you on again at some stage. But for this particular podcast, it won't be that long. But looking ahead to the weekend, I put up a poll after the President's Cup saying, are Athlone Town, are they genuine title contenders this season? Are they title contenders? Are they kind of contenders for that third or fourth spot? Or are they going to be mid-table like last year? It seemed overwhelmingly between Twitter and Instagram, seemed most people thought they were generally title contenders. Galway United for them, that's a big game. Galway, they've kind of been they've kind of always consistently been a decent team, whether it's been under the guys of Galway WFC or Galway United. Won a trophy last year, so two teams looking to really kick on. In terms of two teams really looking to kick on in terms of finishing higher up the league this season.
Yeah, 100%. Like obviously, look, Athlone have a trophy under their belt already. Played really well at the weekend actually, but it's no surprise, like, you know. And I think we see the players Athlone have. We know the ability they have within their squad. They won the cup, like, you know. They're for whatever reason their league season didn't go as planned last year, and you know, I think we all, when we talk about the top teams, we're talking about Shelburne, we're talking about Peamount, we're talking about Shamrock Rovers, um, and then you kind of go into the Athlone, Wexford Youth, Galway, all the rest of the teams. I think that's going to be a really, really interesting game actually, because Athlone have, obviously Dana Sheriff is gone, who I think is a huge player to lose. She scored so many goals, created loads of goals. She's a big player to lose, but I think they've signed well too. And someone like Casey Howe is a big addition for them. She's just a different kind of player. She's just so much like tenacity, and she'll keep running at players. She's aggressive. Galway again, like something about Galway. I don't know. I said this to someone the other day. Of all the teams I've watched come over the years, come to the showgrounds, and I've seen them, I've never seen a team who look as conditioned as Galway. And I mean, like, physically, they look like professional athletes. Like whatever gym programs they're doing, they're working, because they look like so professional. I know they signed an American goalkeeper today, I think. But I'm looking forward to seeing Galway as well. And you know, Galway have got great experience. They've players who've been there for years. They kind of hold on to players each year. They don't have the same kind of turnover. There's a few changes this year, I know, but like, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what both of those sides are like, because I think Galway are kind of looking to build each year to put pressure on the teams at the top, and Athlone have been thereabouts a couple of years. So yeah, that's definitely going to be an interesting tie, I think.
And Peamount, on the other hand, in fairness, they were competitive for most of the game. It just got away from them in the last 15 minutes. And probably no harm bouncing back away to Cork City. No disrespect to Cork City, but you'd expect Peamount to win that game. And then it's not a bad one to have between the President's Cup defeat and going into a very difficult game against Shelburne. Hard to look past Peamount in that one.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't want to say I wouldn't take anything from their defeat in the President's Cup final, but it's probably not the highest priority game. That when you set out at the start of the season and you say what you want to win, um, it is just a first competitive game. I know they've been busy in preseason, but I wouldn't look at that and say, "Oh, I don't think Peamount are going to challenge." They're obviously going to be really strong. There's no doubt about it. They will be again this year. Um, you would imagine that they'll probably have an easy enough game against Cork. I don't want to be disrespectful. Cork have been a very, very young team for the last few years, and like the one player of theirs I was really impressed with last year was Fianna Bradley. I think I'm saying Fianna right. She's gone to Treaty, so you know she's a really good player, and they've lost her, and she was a player who I think there was loads of features about when she was younger, and the Irish Examiner referred to her as like mini Messi and stuff like this. So um you know, she's another big loss for them. But they're a really, really young side, and seen some good signs from them, to be fair. But yeah, you would imagine that Peamount will wrap that one up pretty okay. Yeah.
And your own team, Sligo Rovers, not the easiest start either against a very strong Shelburne team. Now, last week it came out Shelburne, two players suffered ACL injuries, including Courtney McGuire. So that's obviously a big loss. Not ideal losing a goalkeeper just before the season starts either, when it's kind of too late to do anything about it. Not ideal losing any player. And look, we can talk for days on ACLs. We had a bit of a chat on it on our World Women's Football Show, Vanishing Foe Monthly. But Sligo Rovers, it's a long trip up and it might be a long trip back against a very good team. At the same time, Sligo under a good manager now and Tommy Hewitt. I mean, they're what's the aim for Sligo, I suppose, this season? Is it just don't finish in the bottom two, or is there a higher target than that?
Yeah, I would say from a Sligo Rovers perspective, it's to be well away from the bottom three nearly this year. Like, new manager in Tommy Hewitt, he's obviously very ambitious. And Tommy has plenty of experience in this game, and he's signed players who have played in really strong teams, and a couple of players from up north too, who aren't coming here just to play football, you know. They're realistic. They're not coming in here thinking we're going to challenge at the top or anything like that, but they want to be closer to the likes of Galway, and even maybe like Wexford and Athlone, that kind of group of teams, if you like, and further away from, the bottom. They've obviously, Sligo Rovers have obviously strengthened massively this year. There's no doubt about it. Tommy Hewitt keeps saying Muireann Devaney is one of the best players in the league, and she should be in the Irish setup. But they're coming up against a Shelburne team, and like, Owen Waring is probably relatively new to managing at this level. I know he has managed underage. The quality of players he's signed is just crazy. Like, when I'm looking at the players that they're bringing in, like Roman McLaughlin, like, it's really, really difficult to compete with that. You would imagine Shelburne will win that game. I do expect Sligo Rovers to be competitive, though. As you said, 2 ACLs, just a nightmare. Like, ACLs at the minute, as you said, it's just, there's a lot of talk about it because it's just scarily prevalent at the minute in the women's game. But I still think even with injuries, Shelburne will likely win that game. It may not be, Sligo Rovers won't roll over. It may not be a hammering, but it will be a difficult game. And you'd imagine Shelburne will be difficult for nearly everyone to play against this year.
And hammering is a word I don't want to hear at the UCD Bell, hopefully, because Dealer Waves host Shamrock Rovers. I'll be on commentary for that one on LOI TV. Dealer Waves, I will say it's good that we all know I'm a Dealer Waves supporter. Managed to retain the whole squad from last season and add a couple of names, so at least that'll be the solidity after massive change last season. I mean, I think there was it was like a revolving door, players coming in and out. Shamrock Rovers at the same time, look, it was a disappointing season for them last season to not win anything, despite it being their first league back. The way they signed players, their resources, they didn't manage to win anything. So they'll be coming out all guns blazing in this one. Still a fairly strong squad. I mean, a few departures, probably a more tidy squad this year rather than a not as bloated as it was last year. One player I'd say to look out for is Joy Ralph. She was just a player for Dealer Waves. One of these young strikers who just, has a really high ceiling, done really well at the underage level. So if she gets a run against her own club, she could be coming back to haunt them. Join Shamrock Rovers over the summer. I was a bit concerned she mightn't get game time, but in fairness, she did get a good few goes, and she's there learning from Stephanie Zambra and Anya Gorman. So in fairness, she'll have plenty of experience to learn by. And then finally, Wexford Youth Bohemians. Like, Wexford, it was a bit of a disaster last season. I think going out in the first round of the Cup, All Ireland Cup was a little bit better. And, at the same time, the league was just, I had tipped them to win the league, and that certainly didn't happen. Bohemians, solid enough squad that they could probably, they'll be aiming for that upper mid-table. It's kind of, it's nearly the mid-table so bloated in this league that anyone could finish kind of between, you'd nearly say, like, there's a lot of teams that can finish somewhere between third and maybe seventh or eighth.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. And like Bowes, I know you said Dealer Waves have kind of held on to the whole squad, which is actually great, because in the last couple of years it was just sort of chopping and changing with Bowes. It was kind of nearly hard to keep track of players and where they were going. But yeah, the mid-table section is kind of the interesting one, because I do feel like you have Peamount Shells and Shamrock Rovers, and then you kind of have nearly everybody else who thinks that they should be coming up near the top of the next group then after them. But yeah, like I think that's what's going to be interesting, because, as you said, Wexford were disappointing last year, but they have a brilliant squad, and someone like Emily Corbett probably wasn't scoring as freely as she would have liked to have been, or like she did with Athlone as well. So, but another year of playing with the same team will do her good, and that's the same for a lot of them. Shamrock Rovers have, pretty much the same squad with a couple of players. And look, we've spoken before about the disappointment of Savannah McCarthy being injured. Yeah, I think it's really going to be interesting. Treaty are a bit of an unknown, I think, this year, because, they're very, very ambitious. So, and that's what's needed. It's definitely what's needed for the women's games. So a lot of teams who will see themselves as maybe finishing third between fourth and third from bottom. I think there's everyone bar maybe the top three will be targeting, underneath the top three.
Yeah, and then you never know, from there you can push on and maybe become a title challenging team. Jessica, we'll let you go. Thanks very much. Jessica Farry of the Sligo Champion there, and it's Puss Plus Sport on Spotify, Castbox, YouTube, and Google Podcasts to get all our podcasts. Make sure you're subscribed to never miss an episode. that is all the time we have this week on Peil and Back. Irish women's football comes to you every Thursday. Make sure you check out postbus.sport.blog. Still work in progress, still not quite the construction side it was there for a while, but new content coming up there soon. And remember, you can get the latest episode of not just Peil and Back, but of Back in the Net, our world men's football magazine show, and Vanishing Phone Monthly, our world women's football magazine show. And we'll soon have a men's Irish football show coming up in a few weeks, just ahead of the international break. We're going to be publishing either side of the international break, talking all about the men's senior international side, Irish players abroad, and of course the men's League of Ireland Premier Division and First Division. And this show will be back next Thursday. If you want to get in touch with us with any of your opinions, at PostBusSport on Twitter and Instagram, and you can also get us on postbus.sport.blog. There's a contact us page. We want to know your opinions, your thoughts on anything we talk about, thoughts on anything going on in Irish women's football, and make sure you give us your predictions for this week's games. Great to have the league back. Really looking forward to the league starting now. I'll be on commentary this week on LOI TV for Deal Our Ways against Shamrock Rovers, and 4 other games on LOI TV as well, so if you can't make one, make sure you tune into them. Great weekend ahead. Thanks very much for listening to the podcast, and enjoy the football.